about the Talent Identification Program of Kentucky, which is what we are calling TIP Kentucky. I'm gonna open my chat here. If you all have questions as I'm going through this, feel free to put them in the chat so that I can stop in the appropriate places and address those. Because this is a brand new program for the state, and I know that there are going to be lots of questions. So I want to start with a little bit of history of the Center for Gifted Studies with Duke TIP. Many of you all might know that Duke TIP closed in December of 2020, and that was our talent identification program that we used in Kentucky. So Duke TIP's first cooperative program was the BAMPI program, which is a 3-week summer program that is hosted by the Center for Gifted Studies. And Western Kentucky University hosted the Kentucky Award ceremony for Duke TIP for every year that it was held, except for the first 2 years. And then, of course, the Center for Gifted Studies shared information with parents, educators, and students about the opportunities to participate in the talent identification program. So when we heard that Duke TIP had closed, we were very shocked, as I think a lot of people around the state and the nation were very shocked. So Julia reached out to Susan Asseline, who is at the Bell and Blank Center at the University of Iowa. They have been running their own talent search for several years, and we wanted their expertise in what we needed to be doing in order to fill this void that was left. And we began meeting with other people from centers at universities across the nation. We formed a consortium where we meet about once a month to talk about what we're doing in our centers and specifically looking at how we are filling the void from Duke TIP leaving. And we looked at what is involved in launching a talent search. So the overarching goal of TIP Kentucky is just recognizing and supporting talent. When I mentioned local norms, it's all about finding that talent in your school, and TIP Kentucky is one way that we hope will help with finding those talented students. Benefits of participating in TIP Kentucky. You have access to above level testing, and this will be for 4th through 8th graders. And along with that, you don't just get a score. Sometimes you're just provided with that composite score, and it doesn't really tell you that much other than this is what the student scored. So what? So we are excited that there are going to be comprehensive reports that are sent along with that interprets the scores. And you'll also get a science score for those 4th through 6th graders who complete the above level testing that you may not have otherwise. And then we are going to continue the tradition of hosting an annual recognition ceremony. So you might be thinking to yourself, why above level testing? If you are just giving grade level tests to students, you might see that they're performing well, but you can't see exactly how much more they can do beyond grade level. And this above level testing removes that ceiling effect so that you can see they might be performing 3 or 4 grades higher than they actually are in right now. And without this above level testing, you are not able to assess that. So I'll start with talking about iExcel. That is going to be the assessment that is used for 4th through 6th graders. And it is an online test for 4th through 6th graders. And this is a platform provided through the Bell and Blank Center that they've been using for several years. It's licensed content developed by ACT. You all probably remember when ACT was administering the Explore assessment. So iExcel is licensed Explore content. So it is norm reference. And then it's also in 4 different content areas. It's science, reading, math, and English. So to set up iExcel testing, you do this in your district. You will work with us at the Center for Gifted Studies to select a date and set up testing using the online system. It can be done on Chromebooks, Mac, Windows. The only thing that they've had trouble with is doing it on iPads. So otherwise, they have had very good success with that. And then we will coordinate with the Bell and Blank Center to have someone there for technical support on the day of the testing. So if you have any trouble, you can ask them. They're also monitoring it while your students are taking the assessment so they can see if any problems are arising. Um, and when you set up the testing date, then you get a registration link that you send out to students, and they can then go in and register. You can keep track of that in real time to see who's registered, who's not, and then send out reminders to make sure they're all registered. And then you also will receive a test manual for proctors. So you will have to come up with a proctor for the assessment. But the Bell and Blank Center provides a comprehensive proctoring report. And then students will receive a sample test so that they can become familiar with what the test looks like, and they can use it on the computer that they're going to be using the day of. That way they're not worried about the test itself or the format of the test itself or the technology on the day of. They're just worried about taking that assessment itself. And here's a sample question from English. So they give some text and they ask alternatives for the highlighted portion, and the student will select which one they think is the best alternative. And then when they get to the end of the section, if a student has not answered one of the questions, then it will say you didn't respond to question number 3, and it will prompt them to go back and review question number 3 before they move forward, just to make sure that they didn't miss answering one on accident. And as I mentioned, interpretation of the test results is very important to us. We want to make sure that educators and parents are provided with information about what the test score means, not just the test score. And this is being provided through what's called Ideal Solutions, and that is also developed through the Bell and Blank Center at the University of Iowa. So there will be individual student reports. It's going to give background information about participating in above level testing and what it means for highly capable students. It will give the student's scale score, their national percentile compared to 8th graders, and the national percentile compared to the other students in his or her grade level. It gives interpretations of the scores in word and graphic form, and I will have a little image here in a minute on another slide that has the pyramid of service options. It lists the student's score in each subtest linked to specific content, and recommendations are tied to standards. It offers resources that families would find useful, and then also the pyramid of educational options is linked to the test scores. Now, the educator group report, this is what the educator will get for the group of students that they tested on that test date. It's a table of student scores, including the highest, lowest, and average score on each section. It gives the explanation of the performance of the group of students overall, talking about the strengths, weaknesses, and that's compared to 8th graders, independent of what grade the student was in when they took the test. And then you can sort scores to help you manage the data. It gives pictorial representations using the pyramid, and that's what's on the next slide that you'll be able to see. It gives lists of resources that might be useful for the students. And something to note, this group report is only available for the educators. It is not available to the parents. So this is what you might see for the pyramid of educational opportunities. It looks at, I know it's kind of small here, but it looks at your extremely academically talented students all the way down to your academically talented students in these rectangles. And then over here on the right, it talks about some of the service options that you might want to implement for your students in different subject areas. So the shapes triangle corresponds with math, science, and then English and reading. So for your extremely academically talented students, you might want to consider grade skipping, mentorships, dual enrollment, or any of the other ones that they've listed here. And something we wanted to pull out just to highlight are the different types of acceleration. This comes from A Nation Empowered, where they outlined 20 different types of acceleration. And those were some of the service options that were mentioned in the pyramid diagram, but it was a little too small for you to see. So we just wanted to highlight that there's not just one form of acceleration that you might traditionally think of as grade skipping, but there are 20 forms that are mentioned in A Nation Empowered. Now, the ACT is what you might traditionally have thought about when you thought about Duke Tip, when they were looking at 7th graders. This part of the Tip Kentucky is a little bit still in flex because we are working with ACT to find out new policies and regulations that are in place for talent search students. So some of the information I'm sharing is very tentative and it may change as we move through the process, but we wanted to go ahead and share what we are thinking right now. And for the ACT component, instead of just doing 7th graders, we are opening it up to 7th and 8th graders. And what we believe the process will be, what we've heard so far, is that parents will register the students through Tip Kentucky, and then we will give them a voucher code that they then go to the ACT website and register for one of the national dates. And then they will put our, what they call scholarship data code in there so that the talents Tip Kentucky can receive their scores and we can get interpretations like we did for IXL and make sure that all of that data is going back to the students and the parents. Students will take the ACT at nearby testing centers, just like they would have when they were participating in Duke Tip, and they would receive detailed interpretation of the scores. Before I move on, are there any questions about what I've talked about so far? Now, I've covered a lot in a short amount of time. I don't see any right now. You can still put them in the chat, but I'm going to move on to the next slide and talk about other offerings that are available for students offered through the Center for Gifted Studies. Amanda, I see your question. I'll come back to it. Project Launch Plus is one of new opportunities that we have. We have a Javits grant that is in cooperation with Johns Hopkins University, and it involves talent search. It's for 6th graders, and they will come for 1 week during the summer and stay on our campus at WKU for Camp Discover. And then there's an online learning opportunity. It's either the 3 weeks before they're here on campus, or it will be the 3 weeks after they're here on campus. And then after they attend Camp Discover and the online virtual discovery is what we're calling it, they will participate in the above level assessment IXL. And that is all paid for through the grant. The students that we're looking for Camp Discover are students that don't have opportunities to develop their talent otherwise. So we're looking for the students in the low income areas that their parents couldn't send them wherever they need it to be for additional opportunities. And we hope that you'll share information about that and be in touch with us if you have questions. We also have the Doctors Mody Make a Difference opportunity. It is a service learning opportunity that is made possible from doctors in Glasgow that have a real passion for service and giving back to their community. And they wanted to encourage that in gifted and talented students. So this is open to 7th through 12th graders throughout the state of Kentucky. There is a November 1st deadline. The first place will receive $1,500 to put forth towards either an existing service learning project that they are doing already or a new one that they are going to be doing. And the second place is $1,000 and the third place is $500. Julia, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to add something?
Yes, I do. If by any chance you have students who came to SCATS or VAMPI, there is a separate competition here that is open to giving $500 for Make a Difference grants that your students would have. But it is limited to those who come to SCATS or VAMPI actually this year or last year, but last year was pretty limited. So it's pretty much for this year. You can read about all of this on the center's website.
We also have the BERTA seminar coming up about social, emotional, and responsive guidance, parenting, teaching, and counseling gifted students. And Dr. Christina Collins will be coming in for that. on October 18th. It is face-to-face and there's no cost to attend. You can go to our website and register for that. We are also offering Super Saturdays face-to-face for 1st through 6th graders. Mary has stepped in to lead that, thank you. And it will be the first 3 Saturdays in November. You can register on our website. There is a list of a wide range of topics in the classes that will be covered. And then we want you to save the dates for summer 2022. We are planning for all of our programming to be in person. Joya, I hope all the dates are up to date here. If they're not, just let me know. And please share these dates with students in your district that you think would benefit from our programming. And something I didn't mention here, but I want to make sure that you all know, we don't ever want a financial barrier to be preventing students who really need to be at our programs from coming. So if you have students that really need to be at our programs, but they just can't come from a financial standpoint, we do have financial assistance available on a needs-based process. And if you have questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to us. And then that brings me to the end